Georgia,
My goodness.
Georgia, the whole day
Oh
through.
my goodness.
Just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much, Bill.
So that's
And
okay.
Monica, I love you all.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
do it.
So welcome everybody to the latest episode of Monica's Thread Unleashed, the podcast where sports talk callers, just like you, talk to each other just the way you talk to each other. As I like to say, sports talk of the sports talk caller, by the sports talk caller, and for the sports talk caller. Now, tonight is a very special episode. The phrase, our next guest requires no introduction, is a cliche. And I hate cliches. But even like paranoids have enemies and even hypochondriacs get sick, sometimes cliches are apt, and this is one of those times. All you have to do is hear our next guest utter a few words, and immediately you know who it is, because I don't think it's an exaggeration to say he has the most distinctive voice in all of sports talk. Of course, I'm talking about the man who, like Otis Redding, left Georgia and headed for the Frisco Bay, even though I gather he ended up a little south. The king of all things Georgia sports, none other than the great Dr. Falcon, who will be joining me, Monica from Allentown, the First Lady of Sports Talk, and our executive producer, Sam from Utah, to discuss primarily the Braves, but all things Georgia sports. Welcome, Doc. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure. I really appreciate it. You know, this is God's blessing. But yes, I'm happy to be here, and happy Sports Tuesday. Let's do it.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, Doc, we're happier that you're here. We are thrilled to see you, and I have to add, Doc, it's an absolute honor to connect with you. We just love your calls.
Thank you.
To get going, Doc, we're really interested in your story, telling your story. I mean, how does a massive sports fan of all things Georgia end up in California? Start from the beginning and fill us all in.
Well, I enlisted in the Marine Corps in '87, and I did 8 years, got out in '95. I met my wife in '91, and out here in Vista, San Diego area. I was stationed at Camp Pendleton. And from one thing led to another. We dated for a year and a half, and here we are, almost 35 years later. We got married in September 28, and I've been blessed to travel the world via the Marine Corps. And I had to leave Atlanta at the time because I wasn't going nowhere at Southern Bell as a mail clerk. So I remember, enjoying the ROTC program at Frederick Douglass High School in Atlanta, and decided to enlist at the South DeKalb Mall in Decatur, Georgia, right off the 20 freeway. So here I am, and I was introduced to Sirius Radio by my big friend Kyle in '08. Matt Ryan's rookie year, right after the draft. But I'll go back to the mid-'70s, everybody, with my Braves, Falcons, and the Hawks. I remember when Steve Bartkowski was drafted out of Cal Berkeley in 1975. He was an All-American. He came to the Falcons, and we struggled. And it's one of those things where, as a Braves fan, Monica, Sam, and Bill, I remember Dale Murphy and Bob Horner getting drafted by that organization, via Ted Turner. The Hawks had their own unique problems, and I say that because we were wretched, and I mean wretched. We did have a few, like Lou Hudson and things like that, but we really wasn't relevant until Hubie Brown joined us. So there you go right there. I've been a fan ever since, and I got the fire stick, I watched my teams, and, I was happy we made it to Super Bowl in 2016, but with massive collapse, and it still takes a lot out of me thinking about that with, Dan Quinn and Shanahan. But I'll always be a fan of these teams, and you can make an argument even when the Flames in the late '70s, when Willie Platt, and before he moved to Calgary. So there you go, right there. In essence, that's right.
All right, Doc. You touched on it a little bit, but when did you start calling a sports radio, and how far do you go back with Mad Dog?
I go back to Mad Dog Sports Radio since '08 as a reference. But if you talk about WSB Radio downtown Atlanta with Larry Munson, that's when I really got into and knew I had a gift with stats and knowledge. He was a Georgia Bulldogs announcer. He's no longer with us. He died he was 89 or something. But Larry Munson, WSB Radio, WSB Talk, that was the call sign. And I started doing it, and then before you know it, I enlisted. I lost track a little bit, and because I was overseas in Okinawa and Honduras and all that. And then when Desert Storm happened, I really couldn't call anything. Everything was top secret. But I'm back and blessed to be here. Trust me. And I started listening to Sirius Radio with Brian McGovern and Gil Brandt and those guys on 88, and then. Here I am. I switched channels. 82 is my thing now. Tom Byrne. I started to call in tonight, but I wanted to hook up with you guys, and he's my guy. Him and Adam.
Oh, yeah.
We love
Chris
Tommy.
Russo. Sometimes I can't get into Russo, but I listen all the time. And I met JT the Brick in Vegas at a Raider game. My wife's a Raider, and. So I'm really a true fan, to answer your question, Monica, relative to that.
Well, we know you are passionate about your sports and passionate about your calls. And listen, we stop what we're doing when you call in. Your calls are an absolute must listen. I just, again, love your passion about your teams. Do you have a most, oh, you're welcome, sir. Do you have a most memorable call with Mad Dog or any of the other Sirius hosts?
Yes, I do. Me and Mad Dog got into it about a few years ago when he dogged out Wilt Chamberlain. I'm a Chamberlain guy. Wilt Chamberlain has knee problems late in his career. And I really had to get on Doggy relative to his numbers and stats. And I think the coach at the time for the Lakers didn't realize that he had a knee problem. Wilt was such a gargantuan man and strong and strength, but he was coming down and so me and Doggy really went at it right there relative to Wilt, and I didn't appreciate Doggy down in Wilt's heart and compassion for the game and his numbers and stats. And even now, he bothers me when he says Wilt sat out. At that time, they didn't have modern technology. Now, as far as Adam Shine, when I talk about my Georgia Bulldogs versus Alabama and all that, and the Crimson Tide Deep South rivalry, and the Falcons and the Saints, they don't like us and we don't like them. That's a Deep South rivalry, especially the Falcons and Saints, So I can't wait for football to start. Me and Tommy go at it because he's a Philly fan, and we joke around. I love him, and he's from suburban Philly somewhere, and we go at it with the Braves going back years. Now, here's a caveat. When we had Trey Young for the Hawks, and we beat the 76ers about 5 or 6 years ago, because what was his name? He couldn't shoot the ball.
Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons. He still can't, by the
way. I was shocked we beat them. And then the 76ers are young Embiid and all that, but Simmons was garbage. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's three guys right there that I love dearly, and we've had some good. I can't ever say that I went violently toward Adam Shine. Never. I love the Doc Mock. He's giving me a platform. I disagree with him, several times relative to my Falcons. But Russo, I love, man. We go at it, So there you go.
Doc, I think I actually learned from you how much the Saints and the Falcons hate each other. I don't think I knew how much disdain there was between those two teams without you saying that. Sorry, Bill.
So, Doc, I am with you completely on Wilt Chamberlain. These guys today who think he was just sort of prematurely big and he just, rolled over a bunch of whatever J.J. Redick calls them, plumbers and farmers.
Firemen.
Whatever he said. Here's what I say to these guys, to J.J. Redick and everybody. The most telling stat, forget about 50 points a game. Forget about the rebounds. God knows how many block shots for him and Russell that were never counted.
That's right.
Let's just take one stat. The year, whichever, I forget which year it was, where he played over 48 minutes per game. He almost never came out, and with overtime actually averaged over 48 minutes per game. My challenge to the NBA player today would be, pick whoever you want and just say to that guy, you've got to do that this year. No flu-like symptoms. No, oh, my knee hurts. And I don't care if you just walk up and down the court and watch the game. Not one of them could do that. Not one guy today could possibly do that.
Bill, I'm glad you brought that. There's so many shocking records that Wilt Chamberlain holds. And bear in mind, they flew commercials with everybody else. And being 7'1",
Right.
catching cabs to the airport at 7'1", driving from
Right.
Philly to New York because he lived in New York. Those things were otherworldly. For him not to miss a game, Bill, and I'm glad you brought that up, is shocking at that height. I think it was 1967.
No, I think it was earlier than that.
It was earlier than that? Okay.
Yeah, it was. It was one of those first 2 or 3 years. But I hear you.
Yeah, these guys now get on my nerve with a hangnail, and
Right.
sitting out. Look at what LeBron's doing now. Sam, Monica, and Bill, they're holding the league hostage. They want to release their schedule. I can't respect nobody like that. And I grew up a Jordan guy and living out here watching Kobe's whole career. Why is LeBron making so much noise and not doing nothing and announcing on July 21st? So, yeah, it goes noted, Bill, that those yesteryear athletes, going against Nate Thurman, a young Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, some of the big men of those ilk, they had what it took at that time. Yes.
And Doc, don't forget, he's a Hall of Famer. He wasn't a big man, but Zelmo Beatty.
Oh, yes. Zelmo Beatty. Oh, Bill, you're sick with it, brother. That's right. Very good point.
Guys, I didn't mention this before because I didn't know this was going to come up, but I met Wilt Chamberlain about 30 years ago. I was down in Florida, and he had a restaurant down there.
Oh, wow.
And I went into the restaurant, and I as we were leaving, I'm like, hey, does Wilt Chamberlain ever come to his own restaurant? And they said, yes, he's sitting at the bar. So we went over and got to meet him, and it was really nice.
Yeah.
It was actually, I was down there the weekend of the Pennsylvania Basketball State Championships, and that's what I was talking to him about. He's like, oh, hey, you're right. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. So, Doc, we're going to spend most of the time talking about your love of your Atlanta Braves. But before we
Yes.
do that, can you tell us about your sport allegiances? What order do we go with your Big Four, Braves, Bulldogs, Falcons, Hawks, and why?
Well, I got to be honest. I call myself Dr. Falcon, but Georgia Bulldogs are my heart. And I go back to pre-Herschel Walker with Jeff Piper and Willie McClendon, who had a cup of coffee with the Bears. And then I would say the Falcons, and then the Braves, and then the Hawks. I go back to the Hawks when they had John Drew, Eddie Johnson, Dan Roundfield, Billy Paul, Steve Hawes, all those guys. But the Georgia at that time under Vince Dooley, they were the lover of the state because the Falcons sucked. And this is with Steve Bartkowski. He only had 2 good years, 1980 and 83. And so it's one of those things where Georgia comes first. And they had SEC meetings today, by the way. So that in chronological order, I would say Georgia 1 and Falcons 1A. And
Does Georgia win? Well, does Georgia win the SEC this year over all of them, but especially Texas? Do they win the national title this year?
Well, the national title in and of itself is a different animal because we could win the SEC. We've done it 2 years in a row, Bill. But when we got out, it was so beat up that Gunnar Stockton being a young quarterback, because Carson Beck was there the previous year, I'm expecting more this year. Yeah, we can win the Natty. In fact, my prediction is Notre Dame versus Georgia in the Natty. But, of course, you got Ole Miss with Trinidad Chambliss. You got Texas with Arch. But there's a lot of teams out there, to Miami, Indiana, Kurt Signetti, you can't discount them. They
No,
did
you
transfer
can't.
portal. My thing with college football, Monica, and I'm glad you asked this, that the student athlete is somewhat taking the back seat. These guys, they're no longer students no more. The season is like an NFL season. National championship game, if you're lucky to get there, ends in January 31st. And then your senior, you immediately got to leave campus and go for the combine to train for it. So your body doesn't get rest. And they're going to It's just changed so much. Money talks, I guess. 40 million for LSU and Lane Kiffin down there. For the athletes. They weren't doing that back in the late '70s. Herschel Walker, he would kill the bank right now. And then that was during the time of Bo Jackson and Marcus Dupree. But I digress. Go ahead.
Such a different time. Doc, do you have an all-time favorite player, athlete who played for one of your teams?
Yes. Of course, Deion Sanders comes to light. But for me, going back to Steve Bartkowski, can throw from goalpost to goalpost. I got to say that he's my guy, And then, of course, Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron was a little bit before my time because I was only 11 or 12 at the time when he broke the record. I was born in '62, and he broke it in '74. I was going to turn 12 that December. But those two guys right there. And then I could bore you with names like Bill Fralick out of Pitt, Mike Ken out of Michigan, an offensive lineman for the Falcons. Dominique Wilkins, of course. So, and Braves, Dale Murphy. Murph, man, he was it, We won on the Joe Torre, but, that's neither here nor there. So it was about
you might be be a little young. You remember Rico Cardi at all?
I don't remember Rico Cardi. I remember the name and those guys back then. Good job, Bill, on that.
He was a good hitter, that guy.
Yes, early '70s. That's right, Bill.
Really good hitter.
Rico Cardi. Right.
Yeah, Doc, before I send the questions to the direction of Sam, what is the one team, you're going to like this one, what's the one team in any of the sports that you follow that you dislike the most, and why?
Well, it would have to be the Hawks, even though we had some great players.
No. Dislike.
Oh.
Not any of your teams. Like when you think, what is the one team? Is it Alabama football?
The Saints.
The Dodgers.
The Saints by far.
Oh, wow.
The New Orleans Saints. It's not even close. On a lower scale, Bill, and you brought this up a little while ago. It's a lower scale of Pittsburgh versus Baltimore, or Raiders versus Kansas City. We hate the Saints because at that time, we both sucked, and going to the Superdome or Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, they talk smack. And we both suck. And now that Drew Brees killed us. And I hated the Saints, And we had a young Matt Ryan, of course, but we had the best of them in the late. Steve Bartkowski owned the Saints against Archie Manning and Chuck Muncie and all those cats. We had William Andrews and Lynn Kane. So I would say, to answer your question, Monica, it's a lower scale of, let's say, Yankees, Red Sox.
Or UNC Duke, something like that.
Right.
Okay.
That's right. Good point.
Let me throw one in too, because I thought of this and I didn't think the answer. It doesn't jump out at you. Who is the all-time greatest Atlanta Falcon?
I would have to say Matt Ryan. He has all the passing records and took us to the bowl. He's our only MVP. In that franchise history, Steve Bartkowski, Mike Vick, they never won MVP. They didn't even take us to the bowl. Our best chance under Bartkowski was 1980, and we lost to Dallas at Fulton County Stadium in the division round when Danny White pointed out his receivers to Drew Pearson. And they had Dorsett in his prime. So Matt Ryan, but I would say by far, because Dominique Wilkins, as much as great he was, everybody, we didn't get to the Eastern Conference Finals. He had a great shootout against the great Larry Bird one game when he had 47. Bird had like 41. This legendary fourth quarter, but Dominic did nothing. So I would say Matt Ryan's the all-time Atlanta athlete.
Okay.
One more quick question for you, Doc. This is not sports related. You said you were in the Marines, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me the one country that you went to that you remember the most? Impressed by the most, or just have a memory? I was in Okinawa, Japan, for a year, Monica, and it's one of those things where it's mandatory. I was at Camp Foster, Camp Butler, and my MOS at the time, Military Occupational Specialty, was COM. I was base COM. It's 2542. I did my training in 29 Palms out here, and they shipped me to Okinawa, Japan. Close second, if you really wanted to, Honduras. Honduras would be close second because we helped out the people. They're really poor sugarcane industry, and we were over there for security purposes. Then we had to come back and muster for Desert Storm. So I would say Japan was my favorite. The culture
and learn a little bit of martial arts over there in my spare
Okay,
time.
okay.
But this is 40 years ago, to be fair. 88, 89, June 88 to June 89. So, yes.
Thanks, Doc. Thanks for sharing that. I was curious about that. Thank you. All right, Sam.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Dr. Falcon, I've been waiting for this all week. You're
Yes,
one of
sir.
my favorite. You're one of my favorite callers. You're passionate. You know what you're talking about, but you also know how to, explain it on the radio to where it's not, overcomplicated.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
I love your calls. And so I want to ask you my first question.
Yeah.
Are the Braves the second best team in the National League behind the Dodgers?
Yes, they are. They are. Even though we took 2 out of 3 in late April, or it might have been early May, we are the second best.
Yep, it was
Ronald
May.
Acuna Jr., Sammy, that kills me. He bothers me because
Yep.
this is one of those top 3 to 5 players, everybody, but he can't stay healthy. He had 2 good years. He won MVP one year, and then the next year he did have another. But then after that, it was ACL. Now he's at an ankle and a knee or something. And yes, we're not healthy. Neither is Spencer Strider. To answer your question, right now, if we played the Dodgers, they would sweep us in the series. We're barely hanging on against the Phillies. Hell, it's one of those things where, yeah, to answer your question, Sam, it hurts me that these injuries, they're killing this team. Matt Olson's having a great year. So is Ozzie Albies and Micah Harris the second. Keep an eye on that name. Remember that name.
Yeah, it's good.
Drake Baldwin, the catcher too. But go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually at one of the games that they played the Dodgers, and I think they beat them like 8-1. So it looked pretty good. But yeah, we'll see if they can be right up there with the Phillies and stuff. But
Yeah.
speaking of the Dodgers, obviously Freddie Freeman is Brave for life.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Does Freddie Freeman go into the Hall of Fame as a Brave or a Dodger? And what do you think? What do you think he'll choose?
I think given that he came to the minor leagues and he was with us for like 12 or 13 years in the organization, and we actually won a title with Freddie, but he's won 2 in L.A. plus an MVP. That's a good question. I would like to think that he would go on as an Atlanta Brave and give credence to that. But he's having such an outstanding career with the Dodgers. 2 rings, going for a third, plus an MVP. He's one of the best pure hitters in the history of the sport. He's a thinking man's guy. And it's one of those things where he comes lunch pail. Let's put it that way. Blue collar.
He's also
been-
just a great guy. I
Yeah,
mean, have
he
you
is.
seen the video of him going trick or treating with his kids, and he's
Yeah.
walking around the neighborhood, and one of the kids has his jersey on, and he's like, "Do you know who that is? Oh, it's Freddie Freeman. No, that's me." And he's like, "Here, let me sign it for you." He's a good guy. Sorry,
Yes, he
Bill,
is.
but
One of the
There's
utmost
also-
characters. Yeah.
yes,
There's also a video of his 4-year-old kid hitting a ball off a tee. It's crazy how good this kid is.
Wow.
How well he hits the ball. I have said for years about Freddie Freeman. If I have an at bat where something positive has to come out of it, it doesn't have to be a home run. It could be a base on balls. It could be moving a runner up. It could be
Yeah.
Monica, we can't hear you. But anyway, the one guy I would want up at bat is Freddie Freeman.
Yes.
Over anybody. Over anybody.
I have to
Yes.
agree with you, Bill. First ballot Hall of Famer, clutch hitter. The first World Series, he had a big grand slam in Game 3 or something.
Yep.
Something sick. That
Yep.
could go down by itself. And then he repeated last year. And bear in mind, Mookie Betts has been battling injuries, so Freddie Freeman in the postseason really had to almost carry this team minus Otani. But it goes no to Bill,
Yeah.
He's great, man.
So,
No, and
sorry
I've
about
said-
that. I
I've
was
said-
thinking Mad Dog going, do you have one at bat for your life? One at bat.
No.
Who would you take?
No, that's exactly
That's a
exactly
fair
right. And
question.
I've said this a number of times. Juan Soto is a better hitter than Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman is a better baseball player than Juan Soto.
oh yeah,
Oh, totally agree. Totally agree. Great point there, Bill. Yeah. But go ahead, Sam.
and how? No, you were talking about Freddie Freeman with Bill. Like,
Yeah.
he has 2 of the most iconic hits, in World Series. I mean, I'll never forget where I was watching those. And another story about Freddie, this one just came to mind, I'll share it real quick, was there was a guy at Game 1 when they played the Yankees. He hit the grand slam. he was too drunk to remember. He was at the game,
Yeah.
too drunk to remember that moment. And he said after that game, like he was with his kids were telling him, like, you just missed like an all-time moment. Like, and he said that moment he gave up drinking. And that story got back to Freddie Freeman. And he always just credits that. And so
Yeah.
that's just another cool story about Freddie Freeman. But speaking of the two, he has the 2 home runs with the Dodgers in the World Series.
Yeah.
How is he remembered amongst Braves fans, or how should Braves fan remember him?
He's a superstar, brother. And even before the World Series, he was putting up numbers, man. And it's one of those things where at that time, Freddie he came under Brian Snicker in the minors, and I miss Snicker, but we're doing our thing with Walt Weiss. But to answer your question, Sam, he'll always have a special place in the heart. The business of baseball. And I kind of blame Alex Anthopoulos, Sam, Bill, and Monica, because there's no salary cap in baseball. They could have played Freddie. And if I remember correctly, it was only 1 year difference between what Freddie wanted and what the Braves were offering. I think it was 5 years, and Anthopoulos and the Braves was only offering 4. And not saying that Matt Olson is a bad, player or something, but chemistry. He's not the leader. He's not the charismatic person that Freddie Freeman. We love Freddie, and we hate that he left. We lost Max Fried to the Yankees 2 years ago. How come we didn't pay him with the pitching problems, So I blame Alex Anthopoulos, even though he made a great player trade to get Soler and some of the other cats 5 years ago. We won the World Series. Letting Freddie Freeman and Max Fried go, that killed the franchise.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, my last question for you. This one, probably most important. Where did the Dr. Falcon mantra come from?
When I started calling Sirius Radio, man, I was just Kevin in L.A., which is my birth name, Kevin Freeman. And I just thought of, if I wanted to be, no ego aside, if I wanted to be a caller that brings it and knows the stuff, I had to call myself Dr. Falcon. It has more ring than Dr. Hawk or Dr. Brave, if you will. So, it's one of those things where I just thought off the top of my head, and take it from there. I've always been gifted with stats. I was a nerd in high school looking at stats of the old Falcons, Warren Bryant at tackle and William Andrews and all that, and we sucked. The games are already blacked out, but I humor myself by looking at the numbers from other teams. At the time, the Steelers ran the league, and they were sick with it too. I can name all the Hall of Famers. And it's one of those things where I just came up with Dr. Falcon, because it's
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. I love it.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah. Bill.
Great.
So turning really directly to the Braves now. So last year, Atlanta had a bad year. I mean, they did.
Yeah.
Now, to me, I still said as they were a good team having a bad year as compared to what the Mets are doing this year. The Mets are just a bad team having a bad year. And I think they understood that and did because some people say tear the team down, and that would have been insane. But going into this season, what were you really thinking? Were you optimistic, or has this surprised you that they ran out in front of the division and they're in first place, and maybe they don't hold on, but they're going to be right up there? Did you expect this, or are you surprised?
No, I am surprised with new management and Walt Weiss. I really knew nothing of Walt Weiss. I knew he was a shortstop for the A's and he was good, but I didn't know his manager. We needed a change, and I love Brian Snicker, but he was getting old and the message was stale. To answer your question, I just wanted to stay healthy, Ronald Acuna included. But then we had injuries in spring training to Ellenbach and Spencer Strider, who he had an ulnar nerve or whatever. And Acuna, he looked good in spring training, his legs, everything, looked like a running back. But, here we are, hamstrings. I was surprised. I knew we would compete for a wild card, because Chris Sale ain't no joke, man. If it wasn't for Sonny Cray being 12-1 with a sub-3 ERA, I think Chris Sale would win his second Cy Young, But, because Ohtani out here in L.A. is – he's that knee hurts. But Chris Sale is doing it by himself with some guys like Ronaldo Lopez and Bryce Elder. We all we have is Chris Sale. We're hoping Strider comes back. So to answer your question directly, Bill, I was hoping Wild Card coming off a nondescript year from last year and hoping everybody stayed healthy. You know.
So, you made some comments about Anthopoulos. You're critical of him.
Yeah.
But this is thought to be one of the better front offices in sports. I mean, the year they won that World Series, everything he did turned to gold. He did. You got him credit. So, all things considered, what do you think of him?
All things considered, I give him a B plus because he did bring in Matt Olson to somewhat replace Freddie Freeman, and he brought in Chris Sale. That came out of nowhere.
Right.
He's our ace by far. And bringing guys up from the minor leagues like Spencer Strider, he had one good year so far, and hopefully comes back to show people that he's worth that money. But he did a lot, man. And we got some young cats now. You know, Drake Baldwin's another guy we got in a trade, the catcher, and for a minor leaguer. And, if I go through the catchers in the history of the Braves, you got Bruce Benedict, you got some other cats. Drake Baldwin's going to be the best catcher in Braves history, and he's only 25.
Wow.
Now, unfortunately, he missed some time, like 6 weeks or something, with a rib or with an oblique. But you can see he went 5 for 5 the other night, and he's still up there in RBIs on the team level. But nationally speaking, even though he made the All-Star game, not many people know about Drake Baldwin, but Alex Anthopoulos, he's the real deal, man. I just hate that, as I referenced, Freddie Freeman could have been signed for that 5th year, Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that makes me think, well, first of all, I will say this, in the cold, cruel, objective light of day, at least for me, you could make the argument, to lose a Freddie Freeman, but to cover it with Matt Olson, and pick up 4 years, that you're not going to do much better than that when you lose a guy like Freeman. That worked out about as well as you could hope. So here's the question. Now that I think of it, does Freddie Freeman go on the Mount Rushmore of the Atlanta Braves? Because you're going to put Aaron there, you probably got to put Matthews there, and you probably got to put Spahn there. But then I would think what do you think? I think there's an argument for Freddie Freeman.
What about Chipper?
Chipper Jones.
Oh, Chipper
Hank
Jones.
Aaron, Chipper Jones, Hank Aaron. You got to put Dale Murphy in there, 2-time National League MVP, 3. And I don't know too much about Warren Spahn and those cats, Bill, but for Dr. Falcon, I got to put Freddie Freeman at 4.
Okay.
I did say Hank Aaron, Chipper Jones, Dale Murphy, and Freddie Freeman. Yeah, but there was some, guys. Who is that now, Monica?
That's quite a foursome. Those
Oh,
four.
yeah, thank you.
That's
yeah,
quite a
it is.
foursome.
Yeah. Bob Horner, who we recently lost, he had 2 or 3 good years with the Braves in the late 70s. He was a National League Rookie of the Year, but he couldn't keep his weight under control. They called him Pillsbury Doughboy. He recently passed away from a heart attack. He was 68. Bob Horner had the sweetest swing in baseball. And during that time, you had several guys, Mike Schmidt, Dave Parker, all those cats back then, man, Willie Stargell, Pete Rose. The National League was lit, man, with players. And,
hey, Doc, we didn't even mention your pitchers. You could have 4 position players and then 4 pitchers. That's how great the pitchers in the history of Atlanta have been.
That's a good
point.
Oh,
that's right.
Very
Yeah.
Phil Niekro, Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, and John Smoltz. Phil Niekro started it off, though, in the early 70s with the knuckleball. His brother Joe played for Houston. But that's a good point.
He was a catcher, right? His brother was a catcher, right?
Who, Joe Niekro? He was a pitcher. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought
they
he
were
caught.
both pitchers. Yeah. And he was pretty good. Joe Niekro was pretty good.
Atlanta also
and you're right. I don't...
Atlanta also had, Steve Avery, who was a great pitcher,
Avery.
but he was behind the other 3, and he didn't get the credit, but he was excellent.
His career didn't last long, Monica, but he goes noted. That's a very good point, especially Maddux. If Maddux, you saw Maddux in the street or a grocery store, you wouldn't know who he was if he fell on you. He was just a small guy, but his pitches, he didn't really have the 100-mile guy, but he's a true pitcher. And you know about John Smoltz, Bill, and
sure.
Tom
No,
Glavine.
and
So,
I omitted Maddox. That was a bad job by me. He has to be on there.
I think
So
Maddox would
turn-
hate that. Would hate that pitching system now, the challenging of pitchers, because he was always on the corners and stuff like
That's
that. He would hate that.
Well, and it would kill.
college professor. But go ahead, Bill.
Well,
Yeah.
and it would have killed Glavin's career. But let's look at the team. You know, they've been pretty balanced this year.
Yeah.
They're not great in any. They're sixth in runs scored in the National League, eighth in home run, ninth in batting average, 17th on base percentage, 12th slugging percentage, sixth in ERA, 10th in fielding. So pretty good all the way around. And some of these fancy advanced metrics actually suggest they should have won more games than they already have.
Yeah.
So what does this, and you know, some people have thrown out the name Tarek Skubal for them, but what do you think they need to do? What would you like to see them do at the trading deadline?
Well, I would like to get Terry Skubal, but I think he's staying in the American League. But we need another pitcher. I don't know who else is out there relative to that ilk. We need somebody who can start in and match Chris Sale, a 1-2 combination for us to battle. The Phillies have Aaron Nola and Wheeler. We don't have that. We just got one guy in Sale.
You can have Nola. You can have Nola. I don't want Nola anymore. You can't get anybody out. Can't get
I
the ball
hear you.
down. You can have him. And his big, fat, overblown contract.
Wow. I hear you, Monica. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. So you telling me he's a name. But yeah, Bill, it's one of those things where we can bat, but we need a pitcher. And given Max Fried, given that Major League Baseball does not have a salary cap, the only two questions I have are how did you let Freddie Freeman or Max Fried go, even though Fried's hurt. Fried was sick with it. Well, we have Mike Soroka, who's doing good with I forget who it is, but we had a nice young thing there. But we need a pitcher, Bill, to answer your question in short. You know.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the Mets will be unloading Freddie Peralta. So
Yeah. Well, they came to Atlanta and split with us. And you guys are not even trying to win. See, there you go right there. You know, we're not consistent. But the National League East, baby, you never know.
I know. I think, by the way, I think Fried was coming off the disabled list tonight. And I guess the game got postponed, but I think he's going to be back.
He was.
So are we, you talked about Acuna earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact is, are we ever going to see from him again, you think, anything close to what he was, or has that ship sailed and it's going to be much more moderate numbers going forward? Because the power isn't there, the speed isn't. It seems like it's like the thrill is gone in a lot of ways.
You'll never see another 40-40 year from him. Unfortunately, he was like a flash in the pan. The legs, he might look good physically and only 28 years old, but the power will always be there, and you're always worried about silly injuries, 2 ACLs and an ankle and all that, and a hamstring. That means he can't really run or work out the way he still has wheels, but as far as the 40-40 thing, and I think he had 40-70, actually. He had 70 stolen bases that year. Won the MVP.
It was incredible. So who is the key player to the Atlanta Braves in the second half, the so-called second half of the season?
Michael Harris, the second, who's batting over 300. He has like 18 home runs and 59 ribbies. Matt Olson, I would say doing it, but Matt Olson's like Dave Kingman. You know, he's either hit it out or you'll strike out. Once in a while he get a single or a double. I think he's batting 261. He's starting off hitting 300 the first month, but Matt Olson is who he is. He's not the pure hitter that Freddie Freeman is. He'll bang. He hit one out of Truist Park almost the other night. You know, literally left-hander.
Hey
But
Doc, one quick thing here. The guy who always kills the Phillies is having a down year for you is Austin Riley.
Yes.
What is wrong with Austin Riley?
He tinkered around with his batting stance and doing crazy things to get out of the funk the last 2 years, and it's kind of messed him up. Now, he does have like 12 home runs and all that, but he had 2 the other night against whoever we played over the weekend. But that's a good observation on your part, Monica. Austin Riley arguably could have been the MVP the year that Bryce Harper had, because he had 303 batting average. He had like 33 home runs and 100-something ribbies, but your guy Harper took the hardware, and he only had 89 ribbies. So ever since then, Riley, after the injury, he's gone down. To answer your question, but
Well, he still owns the Phillies, though. When you get off from this show, go look up his statistics against the Phillies. He kills them. He kills
I
them.
sure will.
I thought that year that I thought Harper was one of the most undeserving MVPs I've ever seen. Riley could have had a better year than he did. Ozzie Albies had a better year than he did. He could have been MVP that year, and Freeman. But I love your reference to Dave Kingman. Dave Kingman is a perfect example of how baseball has changed. Back in the day, and Dave Kingman was on the Mets for a lot. Dave Kingman was the absolute butt of jokes. He was this guy who could hit home runs, but he struck out so much. People cared about that, and people made fun of him. He'd make $30 million a year today. That's what Dave Kingman would be today.
Shea Stadium. You had a squad back then. This is before Darryl Strawberry and Lenny Dykstra and Wally Backman. This is before then. Dave Kingman, I want to say, was Rusty Staub on that team, or he had long gone?
No, that was earlier, Rusty.
Yeah, Rusty Staub, Joe Torino. But Dave Kingman was one of my favorites, man. A good week in baseball with Mel Allen. Shea Stadium was lit when Dave Kingman. He came from the Cubs, if memory serves me correct. Came from the Cubbies. Or did he finish with the Cubbies?
I thought he finished with the Cubs. He spent some time with the Athletics, I think.
Right. Yeah.
But he was always a big, prolific power hitter. Okay, so who's the Braves MVP so far in the season?
I would have to say Michael Harris II, even over Matt Olson, to be honest with you. Ozzie Albies is having a great year. But Michael Harris II, he's bringing it, man. The second half of last year, and he got married, and then he's really doing it, man. Olson's our power guy. He has 26 bombs, but I would say Michael Harris II.
Yeah,
if it weren't for Drake Baldwin's injury, Drake would be it, because when he went down, he had 14 bombs, and he just now at 16. So, but he's up there in RBI with 59. So.
Yeah, no. Harris had that great rookie year. Then he then he slept the sophomore slump, and now he's back. So anyway, Monica.
Doc, I just have to say this: what I always admired about the Atlanta Braves, is that when they trade a player, he generally doesn't have a second career elsewhere. Like when they are done with you, they're gone. Javi Lopez, they let him go; his career was over. Andrew Jones, my buddy's a huge Dodgers fan. He was livid when they signed him. He was never the player for the Dodgers that he was for Atlanta. So they lost Freddie Freeman, but the first baseman that they got, his first year was amazing, and he's not why Atlanta's having issues right now. The Atlanta Braves system, they just do things the right way, and. Like I said, Bill said it before, Matt Olson is a pretty good replacement for Freddie Freeman. I don't think anybody really thought Freddie would be as good as he is. And he's not going to, and like Bill said, you got more years, a younger guy, and more years to go. And it was probably the right decision for the franchise. At the time, probably didn't feel that way.
Getting him from the A's, and we also got Sean Murphy, another catcher from backup catcher to Drake. But getting Matt Olson, he had 52 bombs 3 years ago. 52. Yeah. And people were comparing him to the slugger like Dale Murphy. Murphy didn't have a great average. I think his career average is, 265? But what Murphy did, he was an outfielder. He had that powerful right arm that can rival Dave Parker as far as throwing people out at home. Parker was sick with it, but I digress. But, yeah, it goes no to Monica. We're happy with Matt Olson, and we'll take it from there. He's only, 32, whereas Freeman is 36 or something like that.
Yeah, it's 4 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
and Doc, you can digress as much as you want. We just have loved this. I can't thank you enough for joining us in the podcast. We were all looking forward to this. I mean, I haven't seen Sam this excited for our podcast. He was just really stoked to meet you.
Thank you.
God bless all of y'all. We'll do it again prior to the NFL season, I guess.
Yes, we will have you. We will have you on again. And Doc, please, wishing a happy early birthday to your wife. I know you're planning a big party, so please pass on our I don't want to say that. I don't want to say somebody's age. But
That's
all
right.
of us here want, good luck with planning the birthday, and hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll get to see you at Bar A some point or at some point down the road.
Yeah.
But keep calling, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you. You drive truck. I know you do that. So please
Yes.
be safe out there. And it was just really great to connect with you. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
We love you dearly, Doc. We really do.
Thank you.
You too. You too, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thanks, Doc.
Oh, that is the great Dr. Falcon. I mean, I was so excited for that, and he didn't disappoint. So, anybody else want to comment on Dr. Falcon before we go on to our next points?
He was terrific. So, what else
Yeah.
is there to say?
When I envisioned doing this podcast, what we just had, that was perfect. Like, that was perfect. Great dialogue between everybody, and he was great. That was great. So,
Awesome. So we are entering our question time from Chris from Connecticut this week, and he actually asked me the question. Who would you put on Mount Rushmore for the greatest Philadelphia athletes? I said, I took a little time on this. I said, Dr. J, Julius Erving. I felt that Chuck Bednarik, old-time Philadelphia Eagles player, Mike Schmidt from the Phillies, and Bobby Clark from the Flyers. That was my knee-jerk reaction right away. Then he asked me, who would you put on the Mount Rushmore as my favorite Philadelphia athletes? Pretty easy for me were the first three, Dr. J, Bobby Clark, Mike Schmidt. I struggled with the fourth one. I'm a Steelers fan. I don't hate the Eagles, but I'm just not attached to them and thinking that I automatically have to have an Eagle there. So I was batting around Allen Iverson, but I eventually went with Chase Utley. I felt pretty confident that he was probably my fourth player. He also, and every one of those guys have been a part of a championship. I think that also had a lot to do with my thoughts on that. So it's interesting that Wilt Chamberlain came up earlier in this podcast because if you're going to talk about who's the best athlete that ever come out of the Philadelphia area, it starts and it ends with Wilt Chamberlain. So that was a question again from Chris in Connecticut, and we thank him for that.
So Monica, then is Chase Utley? You hear a lot of talk about it. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Yeah, I think he is. We talked a little bit about this off air, Bill. You feel like with Jeff Kent getting in and maybe Lou Whitaker next, Chase Utley might be in that same category. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's the case for sure. I think today was very good news for Whitaker and for Utley. Kent's numbers, traditional numbers, are very much Hall of Fame numbers, much more so than Whitaker, and much more so, quite frankly, than Utley. But if you look, and you have to remember, the big thing these days with these Hall of Fame voters, and I'm not endorsing it, and Mad Dog always trashes it, but you can't ignore the fact that a lot of people live and die by it, and a lot of those people have Hall of Fame votes, and that's wins against replacement. And it's surprising, but if you look at Kent's wins against replacement for his career, it's about 55.6. Now, the informal threshold, quite frankly, for the Hall of Fame for a career is 60. So he's actually even a little under that. To illustrate the contrast, Whitaker is like over 75, so he dwarfs Kent, even though if you eyeball the traditional statistics, you would say it's clearly Kent is the better player, and he may well be. And similarly, Utley is up in the 70s as well. So I think there's a very good chance, because the other game these Hall of Fame voters play is what I call the lowest common denominator game. Because, the standards have changed. I always like to say, when I was a kid, the people who did the voting saw themselves as the guardians of the gate. They were there to keep the unworthy out. Today, I call them ushers. They want to, here, let me show you in. Please, we'll put your seat in the front row. And they're going to be looking at that, and they're going to say, well, if Jeff Kent is in, Utley deserves to be in, and Whitaker deserves to be in. I think their chances of making the Hall of Fame because of his Kent selection have gone up quite a bit.
All right, well, that's a little bit of a baseball discussion now. Let's segue into football a little bit. I know Bill and Sam have some comments here. So, Jeremy Fowler from ESPN surveyed NFL executives, coaches, and scouts. And from those interviews, he put together a top 10 quarterback list for active players. Bill and Sam, I know you both had some serious thoughts about this list. And, Bill, you go first.
Well, I come at it from the standpoint, the list had Josh Allen number one, Mahomes number two, and I'm not even sure who was number three. Burrow was four. Oh, Lamar Jackson, Burrow.
No, it was Matt Stafford was 3.
Okay, Matt Stafford. But what really got a lot of comment from people was, Patrick Mahomes not number one? How dare you? Okay. Now, for me, I was shocked Patrick Mahomes was number two. I was like, how could this be? But I believe it from the other directions. I think it's too high. I know we're in a world of thou shalt speak no evil of Patrick Mahomes. He's got what I call Caitlin Clark status, Victor Wembanyama status. And you can't question what he has accomplished. He is by far the best quarterback in the NFL in terms of what he has accomplished. But the issue is not yesterday. The issue is not only today, it's tomorrow. Patrick Mahomes hasn't been Patrick Mahomes for 3 years now. He wasn't very good last year, and he wasn't anything special the prior 2 years. There's a trend here. I just think that, he's not going to be one of the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the league, and quite frankly, that's even with me not being able to say who will. Allen will be, Jackson will be. I think there's a very good chance Burrow will be one of them. Because also the other thing people say about Mahomes, and I'll give you the Mad Dog example. Well, you don't bet against Mahomes. You don't bet against Mahomes. How many games last year were we told were must-win games for the sinking Kansas City Chiefs, and that Patrick Mahomes would not lose that game? How many times did we hear that? 4 or 5? He lost and it's not him. They lost every one of them, even though Patrick Mahomes was their quarterback. I just think, and again, when I say I can't tell you who will be there, but I think with him trending downward, other people will be coming up. Would I be shocked if, like was the case last year, Dak Prescott's a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes this year? No, I would not be shocked at that. What if Seattle wins another Super Bowl? Sam Darnold was a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes last year. Well, if they win the Super Bowl, you're going to have to confront that. Stafford could be ahead of him. Burrow could be ahead of him. So I just think the key to these things is not to recognize them after they happen. Anybody can do that. The key to these things is to recognize them before they happen. I think that's where Patrick Mahomes is. And even that's a little bit of it's already happened, because as I said, he hasn't been in the top half of the league. I'm sorry. He hasn't been in last year he wasn't in the top half of quarterbacks statistically in the NFL last year, and he hasn't been in the top 10 for 3 years. So it's already happening, I submit.
Okay, Sam, the floor is yours. I feel like his head's going to explode.
Okay. Well, I don't disagree. Well, I'm just going to give you my take. And this isn't like to crap on anything you said, Bill, but
crap all over it if you want.
I'm a Chiefs fan, so you could say this is bias. I know Jim and Dallas are probably going to say it's bias. Sorry, Jimmy. But I think people are making the mistake of, when they want to look at Mahomes this season, they want to focus on what could go wrong versus instead of focusing on, I understand your point, but what he's already done. When you look you got to look at the magnitude of the injury. It's pretty magnitude. We'll see what it's like him coming back, but they got Kenneth Walker. That's obviously going to help. And also you look at the other QBs around the league that are on this list, Josh Allen, his elevated his game, won an MVP 2 years ago. He's played a lot better. But I got to be honest, if people want to tell me that Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams are ahead of Mahomes, I do not buy it. Joe Burrow, great quarterback, always injured. Lamar Jackson, as much flash as he has, he could choke the opposite way as well. Justin Herbert, no thanks. Caleb Williams, my doc says it all the time. He kind of just keeps both teams in the game. I gotta see a little bit more from him. So your question that you said you don't want to hear is, if you're gonna ask me who I'm betting on, I'm gonna bet on Mahomes because when I watch him, he's a proven champion. I look at his worth ethic. I see that he has the experience. You can sit there and tell me the statistics have dropped. But I think that his experience, his work ethic is definitely something that is going to carry him. I mean, look at Brady. Brady went multiple years without winning a championship. And he lost a lot of Super Bowls. The perfect season against the Giants, he lost. He also threw for 505 yards against the Eagles, lost that Super Bowl because of a strip sack to Brandon Graham. So if you're going to people are going to nitpick Mahomes' legacy. You can also nitpick Brady's legacy. I mean, you could say the only reason he has 2 Super Bowls is Adam Vinatieri. The only reason he was in one of the Super Bowls was the Tuck rule. You could say, we just had Dr. Falcon on. You could say Atlanta blew that game more than, the Patriots won it.
But Sam, you're addressing a different issue. I'm not nitpicking his legacy.
I'm just saying
he's by far the most accomplished quarterback in the NFL. Nobody's close to him on that, and nobody. I think there's almost zero chance by the time any of the guys currently playing pro football are done that they will match what he has already done in his career. What I am talking about, though, is today and tomorrow, not yesterday.
Okay, well, yeah, that's the thing with the Brady point is, a lot of people thought, oh, Brady's done, the sky's going to fall, he can't get over the hump, I can't beat the Giants, Eli Manning's not even a Hall of Famer's coming here kicking his ass, and, he went on to win more Super Bowls, so I don't think Mahomes is done. And everyone thought the sky was going to fall after they got wrecked by Tom Brady in Tampa. What did he do? They got destroyed. They don't have an offensive line. They lost Tyreek Hill. Oh, what is Mahomes going to do without Tyreek Hill? Oh my gosh, it's over. They just went to back-to-back Super Bowls, won them both, went to almost three-peated, even though they got wiped against the Eagles. I just think Mahomes has been able to show that he can adapt without a huge target like Tyreek Hill. Now we'll see. It's a team game, like you brought up. We'll see how the team plays. My last point. I think Chiefs will be better and more improved because nobody has talked about this. When they had slumps in their offensive system, they had Matt Nagy. Now they bring back Eric Bieniemy. I think he will be a huge key to them getting back to being better offensively. Now we'll see. We will see. I'm not saying they're going to win Super Bowl this year, but if you're going to tell me that Mahomes is not going to win another Super Bowl, or not be in another Super Bowl, or not be mentioned as a top 5 quarterback, or top 3, or top quarterback in the league, I disagree with anybody that says that.
Yeah, okay. The only thing I'm saying is, first of all, you don't have to be a top 2 quarterback in the league to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is I don't think he'll be perceived. And I said this years ago. I called Tom Byrne years ago, a couple of years ago, and said it worked out well in a sense because it was the year Allen won the MVP. And my first point was, at the end of this season, Patrick Mahomes will no longer be perceived as in a class by himself. And I think that was true. So all I'm saying is I just don't think he's going to be one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the league. Is he going to drop Is last year an indication he's going to be a below average quarterback? No, I don't think that. I think he'll be floating around somewhere in the top 10.
Not even top 5. Not even top 5.
Not necessarily. He could be, but again, Sam, it's not the injury. He had a bad year last year. He was not good last year.
He did. I'll admit that, but I think he has the ability to bounce back. And
he could.
All
I don't
can
see
say is
Lamar
I
Jackson
hope
and
he
Burrow
does.
passing
I
him.
think the league's a better league when Patrick Mahomes is healthy. So hopefully he comes back from this injury and plays the great way he plays, because he's something else, something to watch. Okay, we shall see. Great point, counterpoint. This Jeremy Fowler. The story has, really it's kept sports talk radio pretty busy.
And Justin Herbert's not a top 10 quarterback.
Thank you.
I'm
That's
sorry.
what I was about to say. Yeah,
Sorry. Sorry.
I can't figure that. I don't. There's a lot of things.
There's no way.
Yeah, there's things
No
I can
way.
live with on that top 10 list. Him being on it is the one thing above all else that I think is ridiculous. Okay.
I will say this: the guys I think could be seen as ahead of Mahomes at the end of this year. Certainly, the two obvious ones, Allen and Lamar Jackson. I'm not a big fan of his. I understand the shortcomings. I wouldn't be shocked if Dak Prescott is. I wouldn't be shocked if Joe Burrow is at all, if he stays healthy. I don't think it's out of the question, for example, Darnold doesn't get the respect he deserves. He's put together back-to-back terrific years. If they win another Super Bowl with him, people are not going to be able to ignore that. There's him, and there could be another guy who pops up. That's all I'm saying. It's really trend lines, and I do think he could reverse it, as you say, Sam. But right now, we've got a pretty good trend line. You got 3 seasons of Patrick Mahomes heading in the wrong direction. You do.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Our next podcast will take place on Monday, July 27th. We will be talking with Bill from Orlando, our Milwaukee Brewer fan thread member, and we will also have Jason from Tampa, who will discuss his Rays. As of now, both teams lead their divisions. We can be found on Instagram and X at MTU Podcast 82. Please look for us there. Plus, you can connect with Bill on X, formerly Twitter, at Bill Chevy Chase. Please check us out at those platforms. We want to thank everybody who's listening, commenting, liking, following, sharing, and most importantly, subscribing to Monica's Thread Unleashed on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Please spread the word. We would love to hear from you via email as well, so please email your feedback, comment, questions, criticism, whatever you like, to mtupodcast82 at gmail.com. Again, mtupodcast82 at gmail.com. We love hearing from you. We answer the questions on the podcast or we email back, but we really appreciate the banter back and forth, so please keep sending them. One more shout out for the Bar Anticipation Mad Dog Unleashed show that will take place next week, Friday, July 31st, Lake Como, New Jersey. We know that Mad Dog, Adam Shine, Mike Babchick, and Katie Nolan will do some sort of combination radio show at Bar A. They're saying 3 to 7, so it's going to be an extra hour. Doggy is usually 3 to 6. Visit the Bar Anticipation website for more information and to purchase tickets. Click on the box office. It's a great time. The VIP tickets, by the way, they are worth it. You get a great buffet and you get discounted drinks, so it's definitely worth the purchase. Anything else, Bill, Sam, before we call it a night?
Nope.
All right, gentlemen, thanks so much, and we will see you next time on Monica's Thread Unleashed.